So welcome back to part 2 of our ChartMill Academy Series, the playlist that will get you up and running in no time using our screener. Part 1 was an introductory video showing you how the trading ideas section was the ideal starting point to explore ChartMill and its many capabilities. In this second part, we continue with the stock screener itself. First, I'll go over all the different types of filters, and then I'll show you how to get started setting up screen filters. Once that is done, it's up to you to create the screens yourself through a number of exercises. As the video does take up some time and you may want to rewatch some parts, especially in the practice section, I have added video chapters that allows you to quickly switch between the different parts of this video. My name is Christoph. Welcome to ChartMill. Currently you are viewing the ChartMill homepage with the main menu on the left. In the top left corner you will see 3 horizontal bars. These allow you to make the main menu visible or hidden. In the main menu, click on the stock screener section. The next page will take you to the stock screener, which is divided into several tabs where all the available filters are presented. The general tab contains the basic filters, the different exchanges, minimum or maximum prices to search within, average volume, market capitalization, outstanding shares and float, whether or not to include ETFs in your screening results, the index to search within, but also filter options based on sector, industry or industry group, and you can even filter on the basis of the IPO date. All kinds of performance filters can be found under the Performance tab. Under the first tab, Signal, you will find a number of predefined performance filters. For instance, stocks that show a gap up or gap down, pre-market or aftermarket gainers or losers, stocks that have just reached their highest annual price or are very close to their highest annual price. Scroll through the menu to see all the different options. The rest of the performance tabs can be used to set filters based on the price movement of the past days, weeks, months or yearly basis. In ChartMill there are 2 options to filter on 2 types of relative strength: the Mansfield relative strength and the ChartMill relative strength. The first one was developed by Stan Weinstein and is used to compare the performance of an individual stock to the market as a whole, in this case the S&P 500 ETF index. The higher the number, the better the stock performs compared to the market. With the Mansfield direction, you can, among other things, set whether the indicator should rise or fall. A rising indicator means that the stock is doing better than the market as a whole, while a falling indicator means the stock is doing worse. More information about the Mansfield relative strength can be found in our documentation section. Type Mansfield in the search box to find the article quickly. The ChartMill relative strength is a rating number which is given to all the stocks that are currently in our database. It indicates how well the stock has been performing over the last year compared to all the other stocks in the base. For instance, when the value would be 90, it means that the stock outperformed 90% of all other stocks. The ChartMill relative strength number has several segments, as we do not compare the stock across regions. So there are separate relative strength rankings for the US segment, Canada and Europe. The beta is a measure of the volatility or systematic risk of a security or portfolio relative to the market as a whole. This parameter gives an indication of how the price of the security will react to fluctuations in the market. A beta of 1 indicates that the price of the security will follow the movements of the market. A beta less than 1 means that the price of the security will be less volatile than the market. Defensive securities, such as utility stocks, are often characterized by a lower beta. A beta greater than 1, on the other hand, means that the price of the security will react more volatile to market fluctuations. For example, technology stocks listed on Nasdaq often have a beta higher than 1. Companies with a higher beta are riskier, but they can also provide higher returns. For example, if a stock has a beta of 1.2, the stock is theoretically 20% more volatile than the market. The remaining tabs allows you to compare the price to some popular moving averages. You can define the price below, above or even near one of the available moving averages. These most common moving averages can even be compared to each other. This is useful, for example, to detect certain short-term movements in a longer-term main trend. The last tab focuses on a number of moving averages on the weekly time frame, which can be used to define the long-term trend. The Indicators menu speaks for itself. Here you can use all kinds of technical indicators as a filter. For example, you can search for stocks of which the RSI is rising or falling, or for which the MACD indicator has just crossed the zero line upwards. Also, filters based on the stochastics, Bollinger Bands, Force Index or the Arun indicator can be found over here. The first two filters, the ChartMill Technical Rating and Setup Rating, you will undoubtedly remember from the introductory video. The technical rating is based on the short and long-term price trend as well as the current and historical relative strength. The setup rating analyzes to what extent a good low-risk setup may be present. Two very interesting filters are the volume increase filter, which allows to determine to what extent there is increasing volume, and the volatility filter, which measures the volatility of the price using the ATR indicator. With a rising ATR value, you look for stocks that increase in volatility, a larger intraday distance between the highest and lowest price, and with a decreasing ATR value, the momentum of the stock is decreasing. The effective volume, Weinstein and squeeze play filters are each linked to a specific author or trader. The ChartMill Trend, ChartMill Value Indicator and ChartMill Bull and Bear are proprietary indicators. More information can be found in our extensive documentation section. It would take too much time to discuss these specific indicators in detail in this video. All documentation can be found under the Documentation Center menu. Click in the search box in the upper right corner and fill in the subject you want to know more about. For example, effective volume. You will now see all the articles on our website that are related to the subject of your keyword. The Candlestick tab gives you the possibility to filter for specific bullish or bearish candlestick patterns based on the daily charts. And also on a weekly basis, a number of candlestick filters are provided. The Bull-Bear Flag section lets ChartMill search for specific flag patterns in the chart. Again, you have the option to search on a daily or weekly basis. The final tab, Chart Patterns, let ChartMill search for specific price patterns such as wedges, triangles, channels and double tops or bottoms. In that case, make sure you have the support and resistance option selected as an overlay in the chart. The support and resistance section is ideal once you have selected the other technical and/or fundamental filters. The filters in this section allow you to define the price level very precisely compared to the automatic support and resistance zones recognized by ChartMill. The filters Resistance 1 and Support 1, R1 and S1, analyze the price at the nearest recognized support or resistance level. These can be horizontal price levels, but also price levels based on rising or falling trend lines. With these filters, you can determine how close the current price is to the identified support or resistance zone, how many periods the support or resistance zone should cover as a minimum. A resistance length of 50 on a daily chart, for example, means that a specific resistance level has existed for more than 50 trading days, and how strong the identified support or resistance level should be. For example, a resistance strength of more than 8 means that the price has already tested this particular resistance level at least 8 times. The horizontal resistance and horizontal support do exactly the same, but only take into account horizontal support and resistance levels. So no account is taken of any existing rising or falling trend lines. The horizontal support only takes into account identified support zones, while the horizontal resistance only looks for resistance zones. The tab Horizontal Support and Resistance is a combination of the horizontal resistance and the horizontal support tabs. With this filter, ChartMill searches for the nearest support or resistance level. The ChartMill channels are based on price channels like the Dunkian channels, but further refined by ChartMill itself, making them more adaptive than the classic Dunkian channels and therefore a lot more objective. You can read an extensive article about it on our website, and in the description below this video I will add a direct link to the article. With the upper and lower ChartMill channel tabs, you can set, just like for the previous support and resistance tabs, how close the price should be to the upper or lower band of the channel and what the minimum length and minimum strength should be. On the second row, you'll find the same filters as on the first, but applied on the weekly instead of the daily time frame. The last two tabs under the support resistance menu contain the consolidated resistance and consolidated support filters. Before explaining how this filter works, it is important to make these consolidated zones visible on the chart. To do so, click on the main chart and then on the plus sign. Now click on the inverted triangle next to Select Overlay to Add. Choose Consolidated Support and Resistance and click on Add Indicator. ChartMill now identifies the support and resistance zones and displays them in red and green color on the chart. If I now use the Consolidated Resistance tab to determine that price should be no more than 1% away from the beginning of the consolidated resistance, I will only get the stocks whose price is just below the specified resistance zone. You can do the same with Consolidated Support. The advantage of these consolidated zones is that they observe a certain bandwidth within the price has already been quite active. Also for this filter, you can adjust how strong the support or resistance should be, based on the number of times that the zone has already been hit by the price. As already discussed in the introductory video, ChartMill not only houses a large number of technical filters, but the software is also equipped with numerous filters for those who screen primarily based on fundamental analysis. The first 6 steps are ChartMill fundamental ratings, where a score is given on the financial health of a company, growth, value, profitability, and finally also a dividend rating. The first step, the ChartMill fundamental rating, is an overall score of those 5 separate components. The other filters are the known financial ratios, such as price earnings growth, earnings per share growth, price book ratio, revenue growth, quick ratio, and much more. Note that ChartMill also allows filtering based on the Piotrowski F-score and the Altman Z-score. If you want to learn more about the meaning and significance of all these financial ratios, check our documentation section. Furthermore, this menu also allows filtering by shareholdership and even by analyst ratings. More specifically, the percentage of analysts that gave a buy recommendation for the stock, but also how many analysts have rated the stock. Clearly, a stock about which at least 10 analysts are very positive has more meaning than if only one analyst has the stock on their radar. You can even filter by the price targets given by analysts. I already brought attention to the Earnings Dividend tab in the introductory video. It makes it very easy to exclude all stocks that are going to announce quarterly results tomorrow or the next day, for example. With the Custom section, you can create new custom filters yourself, but how to do so will be covered in a separate video. The 2 remaining tabs are the main chart and the secondary chart. These are no screen filters, but using these tabs you can customize the charts of your screening results. Both tabs are used when you select Charts or 2 charts as a view. The option 2 charts shows each stock in 2 different charts. In this way, it becomes very easy to compare, for example, a weekly chart with a daily chart or an intraday hourly chart with a daily chart. And both charts can show different indicators and overlays independently. There you go, that's it as far as the stock screener page overview is concerned. Okay, first I'll show you 3 screens that I'm building from scratch. Afterwards it's up to you. I'll keep the first screen filter pretty simple. I'll start with some basic general settings. Keep in mind that there are currently just over 21,000 stocks being tracked worldwide in our database. In this example, I am only retaining US stocks with a minimum price of $5 and an average trading volume of 500,000. Applying just these 3 basic filters already excluded a very large number of stocks. In addition, if we also exclude all ETFs, then we are left with less than 1900 stocks. Moreover, I only want to keep the companies with a market capitalization of at least 2 billion, defined as the mid-caps. Again, a lot of stocks fall off. To save this basic filter for later use, click on the diskette icon in the upper right corner and give it an appropriate name. In this case, for example, Basic US Mid-Caps. Now if I load a new page and tap the map icon, I can call up the screen filter and then add additional filters. And that is exactly what we are going to do in the second example. So I started again with the first basic filter, and now I'm going to add some additional filters in the performance tab. First of all, I'll make sure that the trend of the selected stocks is positive. There are several ways to do so, but in this example I am going to use the 200 simple moving average for that. I specify as a condition that the price must be above this moving average. I do this via the Price versus SMA tab, where I select Price above SMA 200. If you want to display the SMA 200 visually on the chart, select Main Chart. Then click on the plus sign. In the box select Overlay to add, you then select the SMA 200 and click on Add Indicator. After this I use the Mansfield Relative Strength filter. In the previous video I already explained what this filter is used for. In a nutshell, this filter allows us to filter out stocks that are outperforming the broad S&P 500 index. To do so, I determine that the Mansfield indicator must be rising. With a few additional filters, I am left with only US stocks in a rising trend and which are currently outperforming the S&P 500 index. In this example, I am going to add two more filters. The first filter also comes from the Performance menu and is located under the items Signals. I select that the price of the stock should be at a maximum of 5% of the highest 52-week price. Now I'm going to add a volume filter via the Indicators menu. From here, select Volume Increase and specify that the volume must be at least 50% higher than the volume of the past 50 days. Let's have a look at the results of this filter. On the top right, you can always find an overview of all the filters used. If I now want to compare the daily charts with the weekly charts, I select two charts as a view and make sure that one of the charts is set to the daily time frame and the other one to the weekly time frame. Two stocks stand out in this selection, the tickers LC and ROIC. For both stocks there is converging resistance on both the daily and weekly charts. A breakout on the daily chart in this case automatically means a breakout on the weekly time frame as well. ROIC is particularly noteworthy, as a breakout on the daily chart above the 18.86 level immediately gives room to the next resistance level on the weekly to 22.38. And even with a generous stop loss at 17.5, this still gives you a potential risk reward of more than 2.5. A nice low risk setup for the swing trader. In this last example I'm going to add a fundamental filter, being the Piotrowski F-score. In this article on the website you can read that there are 9 criteria, each of which can earn 1 point. The first 4 mainly have to do with the profitability of the company, 5 to 7 have to do with solvability, and the last 2 criteria mainly concern the operational efficiency of the company in question. It will most likely not surprise you that companies with an F-score of at least 8 are not very common. Let's see how many companies from our entire database currently achieve this high score. First, I quickly go to the General menu and change the Exchange tab from US only to all. After all, I don't want to limit myself to just the US market in this example. In the Fundamental menu, I scroll down and for the Piotrowski F-score, I move the bar to the right until the number 8. Out of more than 20,000 shares in our database, only 210 remain, which is exactly 1%. Using the Indicators tab, I make sure that today's volume must be at least 20% higher than the average volume of the past 50 trading days. If you want to make the average volume visible under the daily chart, go to the Main Chart tab and select Average Volume in the Select Indicator to Add field. From this selection, I would now like to see which shares are very close to support. To do this, I go to the Support Resistance tab and use the item Consolidated Support CS1. I specify that the price of the shares must be no more than 1% off of consolidated support. In the end, there are only a handful of candidates left. You don't have to be that strict, of course, but it does show how far you can go in your selection. I'll quickly go over the results. Advanced Auto Parts is in a sideways trending range and may be ready to break out, but Target Corp is particularly one that stands out to me. closed with a price gain of almost 3%, a higher than average volume, and on the weekly a clear reversal pattern is visible. Next resistance is between 260 and 265. Again, a rather obvious low-risk setup. Time for the real thing now. There are 3 exercises that will appear on the screen for about 10 seconds each, giving you enough time to pause the video. When you're done with an assignment, save the filter so you can recall it later. Afterwards, you continue with exercise 2 and then the last one. And after each exercise, there are a number of hints for that exercise. So if you get stuck in an exercise, let the video play for a while so that you can see these tips. Well, so much for the exercises. I hope everything was okay. I'm going to set up the 3 filters in the platform myself so you can compare them with your own results. Of course, keep in mind that the results of these screens are based on the closing price of October 14th, 21. Those who do these exercises at a later date will see more, less, or maybe even no results in some screens. But in this case, it's all about being able to set the filters. The results are secondary. So let's have a look at the first screen filter. I'm in the general menu. Exchange all, so it doesn't change a thing. Price above 10. The average volume above 500,000. Then IPO date in last 6 months. The market cap at least small. And through the indicator step, the volume has to be more than the previous volume. Onward to the second filter. First, again, some basic filters in the General tab. So in this case, exchange US only. Price below 100. Scroll down, below 100. Outstanding shares bigger than 100 million. Excluding all ETFs. Only the S&P 500 index. Then through the performance tab, price above SMA 200. Through the indicators tab, MACD rising. And then support resistance, horizontal resistance, 2% from horizontal resistance, and another one through the performance tab on the tab signal within 5% of the 52-week high. If you want to view the MACD indicator, go to the main chart, select indicator to add, MACD, and add indicator. We have both the weekly chart, so if you want to change this, go to the main chart, time frame, daily. Now we have two daily charts. If you want to see a daily and a weekly chart, go to the view, select two charts, and now you have, for each stock, you have a daily and a weekly view. And the third and final screen, so again under the tab General, Exchange US only, average volume 500,000, at least mid cap, and then through the fundamental tab, a price book ratio no more than 3, Altman Z score at least 3, price target 20% below the target, earnings in next month, and then price earnings at most 12. That's it. Alright, this brings us to the end of this rather long video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and you've become a little wiser again about ChartMill. The more you practice with the stock screener, the more features you will discover. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you do so, be sure to click the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Thanks for watching, see you next time, trade safe.